I'm considering myself as a huge imposter. Uh,
Trying to understand something, you'd see if it's either like you're trying to get into management or tech.
I would like to drop in the first spicy question, actually, and I'm gonna wear my pink glasses for the first
Yeah.
time here.
And I am like a teenager, or I am maybe like 30 years old guy that want to change the profession and change the job, for example.
30-year-old teenager.
Oh, it's not a bad thing, right? When your
Yeah.
parents saying, "Hey, stop playing games and
wasting
go
your
to
time.
school," you're
You're
wasting
like,
your time. No, I want to be a game designer.
doing
You don't understand.
I'm doing research. Yeah.
I'm doing
I'm
research.
educating myself. I'm
Yeah.
educated.
lots and lots of research.
You want to find out what you like, then start like looking at this direction and so on. I like money. Where do I go?
Go to Bitcoin.
And lose them all.
That's it. Forget about design, dude.
Hey, hello to everybody who joined our podcast today. The Thepinkglassespodcast, as always, that's the 4th episode, and we keep inviting incredible guests to talk about different stuff from the world of tech. As a reminder for those who join us for the first time, this is the podcast where we discuss different news from the world of tech, startups, and business. And one of us, or potentially everybody of us, wears the pink glasses, trying to possess some controversial thoughts about these topics. Today we have an incredible guest, Kurt Bickenbach. But Kurt, I suggest you to introduce yourself and tell you about your expertise, because self introduction is always better.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Kurt Bickenbach. I'm a software developer. So I in the game industry. So I've been in the game industry for about 25 years. So I started, as an artist 20 years ago in the game industry, and sort of worked my way up from being an artist to an art director to then managing and then starting my own studio. In the early 2000s, I ran a studio here in Boston for THQ. They did lots of licensed titles for Nickelodeon and Disney. So we produced during that run, we did about 30 different products for those guys. So I've got a lot of experience sort of managing, running studios, software development, tools development, and video games. So, and then one of my specialties is sort of like art and video and production for video games, as well as some, tools development as well. So I've sort of have this a view from, all the way from the artist view and technical artist view, all the way to a manager and sort of running a studio. So that's sort of my experience and sort of view of software development, again, with a specialty in game development specifically.
Sounds really good. And I know that we have quite a lot of different interesting and controversial topics today about the software development, about the gaming industry, and AI specifically. Yep. So for those who are watching us again for the first time, and this is kind of an experiment format, that's how we're going to do this. So as always, one of us, or in this case, two of us, going to be wearing the pink glasses, trying to possess the voice of the crowd. Vlad is going to be running the interview, asking the main questions, and I'm going to be jumping in, asking some questions from our viewers, from those who might not be that close to the gaming and the tech industry at all. So I'm going to be trying to add some spiciness to our discussion today. But Vlad, I'm going to pass the word to you. So the spotlight is all yours, and you could get started.
Hey, what's up? First of all, I want to say hi to everyone, because you didn't mention that I'm even the participant of this meeting, but it's okay. I'm almost here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm here.
I didn't know you were here.
I'm here, guys. So basically, Kurt, thank you very much for showing today. And just I have a lot of questions, because we're speaking a lot based on our Cambridge Hack Space here in Somerville. So from my perspective, why I want to create this podcast is I think we need to motivate people to move forward. We need to motivate them to learn, to upgrade and boost their skills. And this is really cool case, because Kurt has the experience not only in corporation sector, but in the startup sector either. And you can understand that we can speak like overall about different topics, and we can motivate people to move forward about it. And which questions I have, I think it's just the normal questions from normally podcast stuff, but I'm expecting from you really picky questions and tricky questions, okay? So first of all, we want to know which information and how we can deliver it to our guests, to our followers, to people who listening us, and we need to mention in which sphere of businesses or what is our professional where we are, how we consider ourselves like a professionals, right? So I consider me like a professional in sphere of robotics and hardware. Also, I'm doing my boosting in AI, in Gen AI, and also in computer vision right now. And you doing what? Uber? What?
I'm considering myself as a huge imposter, uh, because currently I work as the product manager for one of the big fintech startups in Canada and the United States, helping them deliver the planning software for different banks all around the world. Before that, I've spent approximately 4 years delivering the marketing automation solutions for the fintech as well. And before that, I spent some time with the medtech industry, helping different big companies such as AstraZeneca, Bayer, and the other ones deliver some software solutions for them. What's funny is that I started as the software engineer, and at some point I just realized that talking stuff and just being useless is much more interesting to me than just writing code. That's where I decided to move to the product management area. And we've been running several different businesses together with Vlad. Currently, I have like a side hustle with a mobile development studio. So yeah, quite a lot of things going here. Sleep less, do more. That's maybe the credo I'm following at the moment.
I think you're not sleeping at all.
I'm not.
Yeah, I see.
You can see this by my eyes. Yeah.
I cannot see your eyes actually.
This is why I'm gonna do like this, because it's not really the pink glasses, but
now you're cool.
that's the pink glasses of the drunk person, you know. So nobody can see your eyes.
The really, really dark pink glasses.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, and Kurt, please, tell us.
So what do we want to talk about first? AI?
Oh yeah, it's a long story, huh? Just make it short. I mean, how you consider yourself like a professional? For example, if I want to have your advice on the future, from which major you can give me the advice?
Advice in terms of?
It's not professional. I want to be a professional in something.
Well, for me, sort of the thing that sort of worked the best for me is sort of self-teaching, teaching myself, or at least getting started with sort of trying to understand something. If it's either like you're trying to get into management or tech industry, I usually would sort of do my own sort of self-learning on that, and then try and contact experts about it. If you're not, that's sort of the way that I've always worked in game development, because the technology moves so fast that you're constantly trying to keep up with the new evolving technology all the time. So it's like I said, you have to develop a skill for like teaching yourself new skills or new technology or new methods for management, that sort of stuff, as you develop in your career. You can't sort of stagnate and just keep trying to do the same kind of methods or management styles. And so, I mean, that's sort of that's what's worked for me in terms of like when we were, when I was running a studio early on in my career, there was sort of a standard way that people sort of managed how they developed software, which was like, oh, you schedule it, and then you do everything in sort of this linear way, and then it doesn't. In the cases I was in, the development was so chaotic and things were changing so much, it wouldn't work. You were just constantly behind schedule, trying to be behind. So it's like I would, for me, I went to conferences and like did research to sort of figure out, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. Sort of like that constant sort of searching for something better, ways to improve. And, so that's how sort of I got into like Scrum and Agile development that in the early 2000s to sort of like try and solve a problem I had at the studio and that the development teams were having.
Yeah, so I'm asking the question because you are a really good representative of the professional who changed the major from the just development to the agile methodology of management, right?
Yep.
So you like grew up and you became a team lead, and yeah, you're doing the management right now more that development,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, I've moved from actually, doing art production on a product to do just managing everybody else that's doing that as well, or running a studio for I mean, it's weird. That thing that sort of I think makes you successful is either some of it is again the willingness to change and find new methods that work and improve your process so that things can continue to get better or improve, or being able to identify roadblocks, that sort of thing. Some of it is I sort of had a natural desire to do that. Which if you're some people can get put into management positions and they're just not motivated or don't have any sort of desire to do that sort of stuff. I think you need sort of a little bit of desire, some experience, and some willingness to learn, make mistakes, learn from those, and move on and sort of constantly improve your skills.
That's actually the point where I would like to drop in the first spicy question, actually, and I'm gonna wear my pink glasses for the first time here. So, as a person who moved from more of a development domain to the managerial domain, the same thing, for example, happened with me when I moved from the software development into the product management. And I have some compromising evidence against Vlad as well, because not everybody knows, but even though Vlad currently is saying that he's an AI guy, robotics specialist, and so on, he started as the marketing guy, actually.
Yeah, I was a marketeer.
Yeah. So at some point, and that happens quite often, I'm really fighting. I joked about the imposter at the beginning, but I'm really fighting with the imposter syndrome quite a lot from the very beginning, feeling that I'm not qualified enough. I've been starting as a developer first, so how can I be the manager now, and so on. And the point of interest for me is, do you feel something like the imposter syndrome ever, or maybe at some point of your career you just stop feeling things like that? Or if you do, how do you overcome this thing?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, as I transition, I never sort of had that feeling of imposter syndrome since I sort of worked my way up from the bottom. So it's like I kind of typically knew everything that was, or at least had a good enough understanding of how things should work or how things were made or developed that I could coherently understand designers or software developers or other managers. For me, it was sort of relying on experts that I was working with for their expertise. Like if I didn't understand something, just the willingness to be like, yeah, I don't understand or don't have a full comprehension of some specific part of either management or technology or design, and let the people around you that you're working with that are these experts guide you, right? Be open to that. So typically never been a manager that sort of manages from the top down of oh, it's what I say goes. It's everywhere I've worked, it's always been a sort of more of a team effort. Everybody on the team has value to have input on the project they're working with and influence it, and they're the experts. Even if you don't if you don't really know something in that field, or feel like you're oh, I don't know enough to be able to manage these people, you sort of can lean on the people that you're working with to sort of guide you and be the expert and sort of inform you. That's sort of how I feel. I guess it's something I never sort of felt, but again, I can see how people can feel like I've got to manage these people, but I don't really know what they're really doing. It's you got to lean on them to sort of help educate you as well. I think that's how you become a better manager and sort of understand what's going on. It also helps the team too, right? It feels like if it's a team effort and a development.
You got it.
Absolutely. No, that totally makes sense.
I mean,
And that's quite interesting because lots of people are trying to, especially the ones who are switching their professions. That's quite popular amongst the people from the Eastern Europe, for example, to be studying for something and then to move into the tech industry. And lots of those people, and I'm experiencing that every single day, hiring junior developers or middle level developers. They have quite a lot of anxiety about the things they're doing. So yeah,
yeah, I mean,
what? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think people, you can just be honest that like with either your managers or her, like you don't know everything, but you can just
Absolutely.
be like, I can figure it out. That's I've got the people around me that can support, whatever we're working on, and we'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I want to ask you is we have something in our mind that we don't understand, and we know that when we try to be a professional in something, it's normal to not understand everything, but you cannot put it in your resume, right? That you don't understand nothing, because you make lower your chances to have a job actually. So you need to focus on technologies, and still we need to, from all that we're saying, that we need to, I think we need to like summarize something for our followers, for people who want just to start to choose the professional education, for example, for them. And we need to understand, and they need to understand, is it okay to be a manager if you don't have an experience, first of all, or it's better to go for development, and after, when you develop those hard skills, you will have the soft skills, you can add the soft skills, and you can become like a team lead, but with the professional background that you already have, with the motivation. I mean, for myself, you mentioned good thing about, I was the marketeer and I like develop and I boost myself. And but that was a time that you cannot just open YouTube and watch the videos about how to learn robotics. So it's kind of my own story. It's easy right now, but before not. And I try to be a manager first, and after I try to be a developer. So this is like a reverse to the what Kurt said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's discuss it. Kurt, what do you think about to be a professional first or to be a manager first? What do we need to start from?
I mean, I don't think there's any right way to do it. I mean, there's multiple. I mean, a good manager can come from anywhere, right? It's just being open to learning and understanding that they don't know everything, or and they're willing to sort of learn and sort of either change their opinion or be guided by the team they're working with to sort of understand the problems they're facing.
But you still need to have that scope of technology.
You need to have it.
understand.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
there's that sort of that base, right?
put the task.
Understanding. Yeah. So I think you kind of have to put in the work if you don't know it, of like,
Yeah.
do some research of like, well, if you feel like, oh, I'm clearly lacking information in this area and I can't rely on, take up all the time of the people I'm working with to sort of like teach me this stuff. So yeah, I think you have to have some initiative to like go out and try and understand it yourself as well. I mean, that's just going to make you a better manager, to sort of kind of understand the limits of what you're working with, whether, depending on what kind of technology it is. I mean, that can be kind of a big lift, I think, depending on what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about it? You change your major a lot.
I did,
So,
but to be honest, like,
but you started
for
like
me,
developer.
I started like a developer. Then at some point, I switched to the project management, like the classic project management. At some point, I was suggested to lead the marketing department, what was pretty fancy and interesting for me because I've never had any marketing experience. Then after that, I switched to the product management, actually. At the same time, I was running some entrepreneurial activities. So for me, that has always been a way of achieving my goals from the, I don't know, some wealth level standpoint, from the level of my self-education. And I was just doing what I'm interested in. I realized to myself that it's fine not to be knowledgeable in everything, but at the same time, as for me, it's not that critical if you don't know something. it's much more important if you have enough resources, or you can dedicate enough resources to learn something new for yourself, to jump into learning the new technology, to spend a couple of nights just to figure out how this specific methodology works. And this is much more important skill than just having the hard skills about the specific domain area. And this is something that I'm currently looking at when hiring the people at my team. Is I'm trying to understand how open they are to learning something new, because unfortunately we're not the immortals. We cannot know everything every single time. But at the same time, what differentiates us from those who are just like moving according to the flow is that we are eager to learn something new. So that's my point of view.
Okay, I'm waiting for your tricky question about that guy that's sitting on the chair and listening to us, and he asking, "Hey, you speaking a lot about the overview, and you just like a global understanding of the picture, but I want to know specific and directly, for example, how to be like a Kurt, how to create the career, how to work for Microsoft, how I can find myself, and where I need to start."
I do have such a tricky question for you. And again, I'm going to be referring to the mentality of lots of Eastern European people. Because, for example, in the countries of the post-Soviet Union, there's quite a common belief that if the person is wealthy enough, if the person is successful, that usually means that they had some relatives or some friends who gave them these opportunities. So, like, this is something that was not achieved by themselves, but it was mostly given by knowing somebody. And I'm pretty sure that some of people who are watching us will ask the similar questions like, how do I get successful? What should I do? Like, what should I learn? What is this, perfect book that I should read to find out more information? How can I get the needed acquaintances to get myself closer to success? Like those people who can pull me up to the level of success that you're at, for example. So the question is, basically all of these questions that I've asked, like, where do you look for the right people to help you? Where do you look for the knowledge that can skyrocket your expertise? What should you do when you're just getting started? Like, is there a magic pill that can help you get ahead fastly?
Good question. I don't know. I think networking helps a lot when you're getting started. So, and the question is like, well, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Yeah, share the secret.
Sort of from in this where I'm at here in Boston, this thing that sort of helped me is sort of, we have this thing called meetups here in Boston. So you can sort of find a group. I mean, I'm sure there's other places, I know that's probably more for the US, but probably other areas where you can sort of find groups that are advertising for, to get together and share knowledge, sort of. Since, here in Boston, there's tons of those kind of meetings. There's like some online, there's some that are like in person, like we have here at the Hackspace. We have, every week we have a meeting where people can show up and ask questions or try and figure stuff out. But there's other things specific to like management or coding or like blockchain or AI, that sort of stuff. There's like just about anything, any subject matter you can think of in terms of like management to tech. There's probably a group that sort of deals with that, and sort of like finding other like-minded people that are interested in the same stuff can, I think, kind of give you a jump start to sort of see where things are going, or kind of find out how things are developing in that area. Yeah. And plus, once you have the once you make those connections too, that can sort of help you give you a better idea of like where you should go and where you should try and focus, or what's the, what things can help you be successful for the future of like, if you're looking to get into a new position or a new tech field, or like, like what do you do if you want to get into AI? You're like, oh, AI is the hot thing. What do I need? What do I need to know?
Yeah, we will have the topic either for AI, but for sure, I want to understand, first of all, is just, I'm sitting in front of my computer right now, and I am like a teenager, or I am maybe like 30 years old guy that want to change the profession and change the job, for example.
30-year-old teenager.
30-year-old teenager, yeah. third nature. And I want to understand what inside my mind. For example, first that show up is I want to work for Microsoft. I want to work for NVIDIA because they stock growing up. I think that is trustable for me. So how I can start, what I should do. Any ideas?
Well, I mean, obviously understand what NVIDIA does, right? Research on the company, like if that's your thing. I mean, that's where I would start. I'd be like, all right, let me understand everything that they're sort of like into. And I know NVIDIA does lots of different stuff from like games to AI to hardware design. So kind of.
Okay, and after you can realize which skills you already have, for example, or which skills is you preferring more. You are a designer, you want to code,
or obviously,
or you engineer.
Yeah, you want to probably find something that you're interested in, that you're going to be motivated to like learn and want to be part of.
Okay, which scope of skills I need to have to be like a game designer nowadays, for example?
Yeah, I mean. Part of it is you have to play games, and then the other part of it is...
it's not a bad thing, right? When your parents saying, hey, stop playing games and go to school, you're wasting your time. No, I want to be a game designer. You don't understand.
I'm doing research, yeah.
I'm doing research.
Educating myself. I'm educated.
Lots and lots of research. Yeah, I mean, there's playing games, and there's sort of like understanding like how they actually operate underneath, like what's happening behind the scenes, sort of, and the systems that they use to sort of like design these interactions. So like understanding the sort of, you don't have to sort of understand like how to design a full like AI system that controls like rewards and risks, and how do you and dice rolls, how do you do those sort of things. I mean, but you could like, I mean, most video games are based on like the old school like board games, role-playing games, where people are throwing dice behind the scenes. So you have to kind of like, understand that, there's this math system behind what I'm playing that's evaluating risk and reward, and how do I give that player the sort of reward that they want to keep them going in the right direction, or a hook to sort of like, what's the thing that's hooking me in this game? Like, how are those designed, or what are the systems used to build those?
Okay.
Like, you have to you don't have to understand them, but be aware that in general, like, what are they? How are they do,
So I need to pick up the game and try to search what is the scope of technology inside that game?
Or game design. I mean, there's plenty of stuff online that will teach you like, basics of game design, and can give you sort of a general overview of like how they build those systems, or what systems are typically used, because modern video games at the core have not changed a whole lot underneath the hood of like the systems they're using in terms of like...
Is there any frameworks there?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of, again, you can kind of go back to the old board games. That's where everything is sort of typically built off of like how they balance stuff. Again, I mean, there's this wide range of different games of like, either you have like a system where your character is like evolving over time and getting more powerful, that sort of thing. There's games where you just wander around, and that's sort of like, it's not necessarily the focus of the game. It's not like this thing where you're like building a powerful character and trying to be like, what's the best item I need, or what's the best, So you can kind of understand sort of the different sort of genres of games they could play, and how those design systems can be worked, and what makes them engaging and effective. I mean, game design can be sort of a massive a massive thing to try and get into, but you kind of can start simply and sort of understand the basics of like, what's going on underneath.
Okay, so it's hard for me to understand where to start, actually, because you need to Google yourself, and but you still, what I plan to do, for example, if I try to find a new job for myself and I'm interested in the game design and I like to play games, for me, I just go to, for example, to Indeed and try to find what is the specific criteria of those people who creating the games and I mean the game studios that they what scope of technology they willing to have
Yeah.
from me. Is that work?
Yeah, you can go to you could look at like what a studio is looking for in their job requirements and be like, oh, these are the skills they're looking for. And then try and work backwards and be like, okay, how do I get those skills?
Mm-hmm. And how the process works like further? I need to learn 4 years of graphic design, or it just can be a like small course of education to draw or something.
Sort of, I don't know. In the game industry, there's a bit of an apprenticeship kind of thing typically happens where it's rare that you get a game designer that already knows that's never sort of been in the industry. I mean, that it does happen. But typically they come from another like board gaming thing where they've like, oh, I've been designing board games and now I want to get into video games. Well, they already have this base understanding of core mechanics of like how video games can be run on a stat base underneath, you know.
Yeah, but still we're speaking about the people who
have no clue.
Yeah. About the games and they just have a dream to be there.
Yeah. I mean, they can sort of, I mean, one of the things I find interesting is like YouTube has there's several really well-respected YouTubers that sort of basically go through like, oh, this is how a game's made. These are the core elements and they might build on themselves and be like, oh, this is the system I'm using. This is how I went about figuring out trial and error in, how they figured out. You can get a lot of information from that. It's just sort of like somebody else like trying and failing and trying to understand like, well, I know the theory, but how do you apply it? And I mean, again, video games is this very nebulous thing where you're trying to like make fun or make something. I mean, there's some science behind it in terms of like, oh, I want to make a game addictive, which you can go into a game like with that intent. If you really know what you're doing, you're like, oh, I want to create a system that creates lots of dopamine rewards for getting small, for doing this type of behavior, and that's how we're gonna hook them. And like, what's the theme and what's the wrapper around that? You can kind of think of some games as like a slot machine.
Oh, okay.
Every time you
online
win,
casino.
you feel good. Yeah, every time you get a little win, you're like, oh, I feel good. I want to do that again. Your brain's like, oh, I want to do that action again or this behavior again, so I get that little reward. That's what makes me feel good. That's what's driving me in this game. I mean, that's some of the core things that are happening behind the scenes in the video game, that there's designers that are pulling those levers and strings to make you feel a certain way. Again, it's very difficult to do because, what's fun for one person might not be fun for another. What might be rewarding for one person might not necessarily work for everybody. So that's like,
actually, that's a pretty fancy point that I think might represent the question of lots of our viewers. Is, for example, I'm going to apply my example here. So when I was just learning programming, the way how I learned this, I was looking at different software, different programs that I'm using, and I was trying to figure out whether I do understand how to build this or not. So for example, I was looking at some simple calculation tool, and I was trying to figure out, okay, I suppose this is how it should work, and possibly I can develop this in like several days. And then I was trying to apply this, and then like the complication level of these programs I was trying to de-engineer was higher and higher. At the same time, I was like learning every single material I was able to find on the web, in the libraries, and so on. But at the same time, it's obvious that it is not enough just to learn the technical part of the things. Yeah, like how to develop the games, what frameworks or engines you should use. And you have mentioned about, for example, how do you hook the users up to feel some dopamine based on the games they're playing. So what is the way to figure out or to learn the business side of the things, not just how to build the product, but also how to make it entertaining, how to ensure that it provides enough dopamine to the people playing it, for example, that it's going to be convertible into some money. So how do you learn the business side of the things at this point?
How to make money.
Yeah, how to make money.
Yeah, how do you learn this? How do you figure out that you have enough entrepreneurship soul in yourselves to start building something that's not just fancy?
Yeah.
That gives you money.
Yeah. It's, yeah, if you could figure that out, you'd be rich.
Yeah, this is the question of humanity, right? How to be rich.
That's in terms of in entertainment industry, it's a hard thing to figure out, right? Because you've got so many factors that can go into it because you're making an entertainment industry, something that's an entertainment platform. It can have so many genres and so many different, there's so many variables that go into it, which is why it's so hard. It's like the movie industry, like timing can play a huge part in it, like what it comes out, what's the competition, what's the theme, is the theme popular enough, is it can you get traction, like is your marketing team effectively communicating what the game is and what the hook is to grab the audience. Is there's so many factors that go into a successful game, and I mean it's not just one one arm of the business. It's one of these things that spans across the whole business. Everything has to sort of work: marketing, game design, the theme has to be right, timing has to be right. It's a problem that's happens in an industry, right? A good game can come out and just not do well. It can be hidden by other things, or the marketing team didn't quite, didn't spend as much money on it as they could have, or they just
the money is the goal.
Didn't get the traction. It's like what happens in those things. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I don't think there's any right answer.
Why are you asking this? Because we are moving to the section of business, right? So we understand that to be the professional in the game design or in any field of business, you want to be a developer or you want to be a designer. What do you need to do? First, you need to understand where you want to go. What do you like? Which kind of games you like to play, for example. What is your inspiration or motivation to move? You want to learn the architecture of it. You want to learn how to draw it. And after you decide, you want to check out what do we have on market and what is the skill set you need to have to participate, to join the market. And the third one, you need to find a school or YouTuber who give you the first skills to start from, and you can try if it's fit to you or not. This is, am I right?
Yeah, I mean that would, yeah. The other thing is find out if you if you like it or not, if that's something you can maintain the interest in it as your
So, and I think I'm gonna provide the fast route to this algorithm that Vlad just provided, but I'm pretty sure that lots of teenagers are asking that. So, let's start with you want to find out what you like, then start looking at this direction and so on. I like money. Where do I go?
Go to Bitcoin.
And lose them all.
That's it. Forget about design, dude.
Yeah, don't go in the game industry. If you go into finance.
If you like money, you need to work with money, dude. You don't need to draw something, because by the end of the day, you will not have that goal of money. You will need to have something more. I mean, you will inspire, more but money. If you have money already, I mean, if you raise 130K a month, for example, for a game designer in NVIDIA, for example, in a year, 130K in a year, and you already have enough money to survive, right? And you need to have something to motivate you after. And this is the point of what you like or not. Yeah, but you are not on that point, Bob. That's why you're asking that question.
Exactly. I'm not there. Like I'm too low at the Maslow pyramid at the moment. So yeah. Sorry
So
about
just invest in Nvidia stock and don't be a designer yet. And from the investment point, why I'm asking that question? That's a tricky question from my side. I have a news from Crunchbase that global funding to gaming-related startups is going down. And the investment in and around the games industry dropped by 79% in 2023. And this is really, really bad stuff. I mean, this is really lower than in 2018, which is almost 2019 is the COVID, right?
19.
that.
19, yeah. So
2020.
End of 19.
yeah, so it's lower than in when the COVID started. 2023 is the lowest right now in 5 years. And let's speak about it. Why it's happened? What's going on? People not playing games anymore or what?
I think they're still playing games. There's been a consolidation of a lot of the game studios. So, I've been noticing this probably since around 2005 or so, where there's the big studios gobble up a small studio as a way to sort of like grow.
Like merge?
Yeah, they merge. And sometimes, if they're not getting what they want, they sort of just kill the studio or shut it down. So I think there's fewer and fewer studios developing games, and sort of more of these large companies that are gobbling up other small developers, and or they're just making bigger bets on fewer games as well. Like they're spending more money on these big hits, like think of like Cyberpunk or Red Dead, or these big, massive open world games that cost many millions, if not like hundreds of millions, to develop, because they take massive amounts of like art resources and armies of people to develop the content for them and play them and test them. So they grow these big, massive teams, and then when the game's done, they don't need that massive team anymore. What they do, they've sort of built this over probably 2 or 3 years, a massive team with all this expertise, and then they turn around and they need to make another game. Well, they don't need all those content developers. They only need a small core. So they usually lay off people or get rid of people and just shrink down to a smaller core team to start the next project, and then slowly ramp up over the next 2 or 3 years. That's sort of a typical cycle you'll see from larger game studios. Or if a studio that has, very few big projects, and if those don't hit, those big bets, those $100 million, titles, or like tens of millions of dollars to development don't hit, it's a big hit to the studio. They're losing lots of money that they invested. So I think there's sort of, that is one thing that sort of drives this big instability in the industry of like, oh, big hits are failing or people aren't playing. It's, again, the whole thing of like, is it the right game at the right time at the right audience? Did it do well?
What about another impacts that I think can affect it? First of all, is the war. I think the war, when you have a war and you always try to, when you always seen from YouTube the information about the nuclear war, for example, and you are always in the risk, and you need to keep your money, and you need to focus on your job, and you need to boost your skills.
Instability in the
Instability
economy.
in economy. So I think the games are about relaxation, right? So it's kind of
Escapism.
It's kind of the what is that, in Maslow pyramid, right? I think this is kind of on the top level of the Maslow pyramid, and you skip it if you really have your risks about your life, for example, or your family and all that stuff. This is one. I'm not thinking that it's hit a lot, but in all entire economy of the world is the changing, right? And another one, I think, the AI is growing, and Kurt writes that a big corporation, they merge with the small companies, and if the project is not successful, they just drop them off from the jobs. And why now? Because we have a lot of different tools, and we can substitute them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
With the AI.
In the game industry, I don't think we're not. I don't think AI is affecting the way that production is done yet.
Yeah.
My guess in the future it probably will start to affect it at some point in terms of studios may not hire as many artists. I don't think you're going to get for like the AI art or AI. I mean, I don't know if you really want to have AI writing your story or doing character dialogue or anything like that quite yet. But yeah, it's definitely going to have an impact probably going forward in terms.
But just a matter of time, I think. Well, what do you think about AI in games?
Actually, it always feels to me like I'm gonna lead this to AI as well, but it's for me one of the main reasons why the games are not that popular nowadays is basically because the amount of the information we're consuming every single day, it grows not even in the arithmetic but in the geometric progression every single day. And like the amount of the information we started consuming after COVID grew dramatically. Every day we get new podcasts, new magazines, new journals, everything like appearing here and there, and we getting more and more and more info. And even if you compare like the amount of the data we've been consuming like 5 years ago and nowadays, that's completely different. And as for me, like I'm judging from my standpoint, it's hard for me to stay focused on something for longer than even like 40 minutes. And when we're talking about the games, it's when you sit down to play something for at least like a couple of hours. I cannot feel.
Interesting point. Yeah.
I do not feel myself that I can allow myself to distract from all the information happening around me for at least 2 hours, because I'm gonna be like cut off from this data network, and I will have to keep up to get everything that happened in these 2 hours. Like we live in the world when you go to sleep and in the morning you wake up in a different reality, when the war started, when the COVID hit, when somebody died, somebody important, and so on. And as for me, like it's more from the worrisome perspective. I'm getting worried if I'm like focused on something for a couple of hours because I do not get that information. And talking about AI, when we got so many AI generated content, that grew the amount of the data even more, and like the amount of the information we're getting grows even harder. And I'm pretty sure that these numbers will be growing further and further in the next several years. Plus, our podcast appeared and brings in a lot of information as well into the info world. So that's a huge aspect as well. But yeah, summing up, my idea is that nowadays you just cannot afford yourself even an hour or a couple of hours of time to sit tight and play something, being focused completely on this one activity. And that's the main problem.
Okay, you know what I realized just from your opinion? I didn't play game maybe a year, but I'm still on games. I'm watching the stream from game players. I just watching the streams like a hero magic and
you're watching
magic
people
mind
play
and
games.
magic. Yeah,
like
I'm watching
live
people
streams.
from podcasters and professional gamers when they playing games. And why I'm doing it, because I want to concentrate something, but I still want to have something like
white noise. And
something in my ear that I don't want to focus on it, because I don't want to take a joystick and play. But I still want to have that interface of the game, and I want to be involved in the game, so I want to feel it. But still, I'm doing some project and I'm thinking about something, and I don't have a time to participate fully to it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a good point that it's really you change your focus, and now you're trying to force to that understanding of how you can raise money. How you can survive, what you need to, where you need to invest, and you got different opportunities with NFT and all that stuff. So what I'm thinking that we have different fuck.
Yeah, it's loud on our end.
It's loud in the area, yeah. I think we need to just focus on what is really the world about, right? That's why. And I think this is another way to be smart, and maybe Kurt can explain it a little bit. But is that right that people who are in design right now, they're learning how to create a design with AI?
Maybe as I mean, in its current form, it might be used as an assistant. Yeah, I don't think they're quite to the level where they could actually come up with an idea and be able to execute a design. But I'm not sure if the large language models have that depth of knowledge yet. I'm sure they have some of it there. That I'm sure if you probably ask some of them, they could probably give you a pretty good checklist of oh, design me a game of X and sort of give you an outline of kind of how it would work. But it's all got to be based on stuff that's previously done before, right? It's not going to come up with something. It might be able to come up with an original idea, but not a new game system or a new method of doing so, or some sort of twist. It's just too based, I think, on stuff that's been previously developed.
For patterns, you mean?
Yeah, for patterns and creativity. I mean,
the people, I think we are people, we still based on patterns. We cannot create something really new that nobody know.
Yeah.
We still have some background.
Yeah, everything's always built on something else,
Yeah.
is influenced by something that came before it. I'm guessing as designers, they'll probably use it as sort of like I said, an assistant, either help them with stats or.
What about Sketch? If you want to create Sketch for yourself, I'm doing sketches with the DALL-E.
Yeah, I mean, I use that too. I'm doing my own little personal projects, and I use Stable Diffusion to do concept ideas in terms of for ideas of directions I want to go for look and feel or environments. So I use it for more of inspiration. So it's like having your own sort of concept artist that can do sort of pretty much any style you can think of or genre. So I've sort of used that as sort of a starting point for look and feel. It's not to the point where you can really use it. I don't think it's getting closer, but you can't use it as for production art. I don't think quite yet.
From myself, I consider myself right now more like a pattern, not like prompt designer.
A prompt? Oh.
Yeah, a prompt designer. For example, I'm doing a technical specification, or I'm trying to create the value for what I'm doing in product management. And I'm really doing the prompt I'm doing for my team, technical team. I'm doing the technical scope for them, right?
Yeah.
A technical task for them. And I'm doing the same for AI. And if you're good on prompts, you can have what you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely skill with for the large, how to prompt to get what you want, and you kind of have to know how to build a prompt properly, and even to be good at it, you have to do a little research there as well. Yeah, I had the same issue when I started doing using Stable Diffusion in Midjourney and those things. You really have to understand what's expected from a prompt to get the result you're looking for. There's a fair amount of skill.
Yeah, but it's still skill that we need to learn, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's going to be, there's people who are definitely learning those skills. I see in the sort of the places I frequent for Stable Diffusion stuff, people hiding their prompts and that's currently that's their sort of skill and gold in terms of I know how to prompt to get what I want, or I know how to use these other tools to make a image look exactly like I want, or compose it properly, or so there's quite a bit of skill in sort of learning that. Again, it's developing so fast, the skills that you learned a year ago may not quite apply going forward. But yeah, it's pretty crazy how fast the that stuff is developing, and the amount of understanding you have to have about what the AI is doing to create images, and or what you need to prompt to get the response you're looking for from something like chat GPT or a large language model like that.
Yeah, I got you. What do you think, Bo? You created your prompt for a perfect girl, AI girl?
Absolutely. Of course, that's the first thing.
The first thing.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the thing that we discussed recently, and we at the App Factory, at my company, we made quite a huge research on this topic. That when AI first appeared and these Gen AI technologies became open, the first application that started becoming popular, the type of application that started becoming popular on the App Store was like the virtual girlfriend or like AI girlfriend.
Yep.
And there are like, I don't know, maybe 100 of different apps like that at the moment on the App Store suggesting such a thing where you can generate different prompts with some like dark desires or just like some flirting or something like that. But the thing that I have at this point is that you are totally right that we need to learn how to use this the right way, because what I started experiencing recently with my team and my colleagues, for example, is that quite often I do recognize when the person uses ChatGPT for generating an answer or generating the cover letter or something like that. And that annoys me much more than the case when the person just does it badly, but with their own efforts. Because when you see that the person just used the simple ChatGPT prompt and did not even proofread the message that was provided to them and just sent it like that into the chat, for example, answering some of your questions or sending you the cover letter, that annoys a lot, because that shows that no effort was put into the work. And why I'm saying that is there are quite a lot of people nowadays who are saying that, okay, now AI is here, we don't need to work anymore, it's going to be quite simple for us to put aside all our works and just to put it on the shoulders of the AI. But in fact, it's not enough just to make the correct prompts, but it also a lot of critical thinking being applied to the results of these prompts, because at some point, and this is something we're going to be seeing more and more, people will be trying to use AI technologies as is, thinking that they are the smartest ones in the room, and that's totally fine. And this is what's going to be the competitive difference. Like, can you put the results of Gen AI as your own work, and can you package that into the way that it looks like something useful, or you're just going to be using a rough variant that AI provides you, and it will lead you to nowhere. And I think, and again, this is something to for those who listening to us, this is your opportunity to get ahead with a competitive advantage. Not just use AI for your daily tasks, but learn to use it properly, learn to apply critical thinking to it, and learn to proofread the results of the AI that it gives to you. And that will get you ahead out of the other people whom you might be working with. Well, this is my opinion about all the AI stuff currently happening.
Nice.
I agree. I mean, I've used it for on the last jobs I worked on. I used it for if there was something I didn't think I had the knowledge in, or I wanted to get more information on it, I would use ChatGPT to get more information on what I'm looking for. But like you said, the results are not always well formatted or well put together. So it takes a fair amount of effort to sort of take that and sometimes do even more research on it to sort of interpret the results and like put them in your own words or tailor them for what you need.
Or at least
you still need to edit it.
Yeah.
Double check, because I'm going to provide an example. So for those who don't know, I'm publishing my first book in a couple of weeks. It was a moment of this self-advertisement. But anyway, it's not a secret. Yes, I was using ChatGPT for some proofreading, for some examples, research, and so on. And the idea is that I was looking for some examples on how different companies rejected their initial idea and transformed it to make the successful product. And what ChatGPT suggested me to write about is the case of YouTube. And their initial idea was that YouTube first started as the video dating platform, and then they transformed into the video hosting platform. And you start researching the real information behind it, and you figure out that nothing like that ever happened. Like, it was completely untrue and something. But now imagine, like, if I would not proofread this and put it into my book and then started hardly promoting it and possessing that as my like personal achievement and so on, and at some point people will understand that I am providing the misinformation, that would be a failure for me and a huge catastrophe. And this is in the scale of one individual. But what if the huge company uses such information as the miscommunication point?
Yeah.
That would be much higher problem in this point. So just as a conclusion, be careful about what you're using, what you're reading.
Double check. Always double check any words that you say and any words that you achieving or something somebody say to you something, right? You need to double check if you want to use it after, for sure, because this is the main issue of AI. You never know if this is true or not.
The tendency for those, I think all of the large language models have what they call hallucinations.
Yeah, hallucinations. Sure.
They give false information because it doesn't know what it's doing. It's just a predictive algorithm. It's not doesn't fact check itself.
And actually, if you know that it's right, and you can type to the chat that is, hey, this is wrong. I mean, this is wrong story. Why are you saying wrong to me? And he will not prove that it's right. He will say, hey, sorry, yeah, this is wrong, but this is another story that you can read.
There's no consciousness here. I'm just predicting.
You know, like ChatGPT is just like a girlfriend you're trying to argue with.
You're right.
Never agree that you're wrong.
Never agree. No, she's always agree with you. The ChatGPT always agree with you. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, that's the difference, yeah.
Yeah, this is the difference. Okay, so to summarize everything that we are saying, again, to the game industry, you not thinking that the AI will catch the part of the market? In the
future, I can see it potentially reducing the number of like artists that might need to be used on a game, right? So they might be able to like, you'd have the way I'm sort of thinking of it, you might have a set of in-house artists that sort of do the style and direction, and then you train that AI to use the style that you're using for the game. So it might give you a crutch to like be able to produce more textures and depth maps and, you know, create some of the parts that you're using to build the game, right? So that might give you an advantage there where you're like, well, I don't need as many artists as I would normally need to, because I can have one person do the work of maybe 3 or 4 people in sort of in this aspect. So, but I think you're still going to need the artists and the talent. I think you just might need less of them. So, I mean, if that comes around, I think it will help reduce some of the costs of building some of these bigger games and probably give an advantage to some of these smaller studios. I think they'll be able to do higher quality work or better work with fewer people. But I mean, again, it's like everything else, it's a tool, right? You can abuse it and and get stuff out of it that's not great and, you know, not interesting, or you can use it as a tool for, you know, existing artists and designers to sort of use to enhance what they're already doing and sort of allow them to create more content than they would have normally. But I think in the probably the next 5 or 6 years, there's gonna be still lots of people that have traditional art skills and experience that you just can't get away from.
But you're happy?
Absolutely. And I hear that the bass riffs are getting louder and we're passing the hour of recording. Yep. And it feels like this is a great point
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like a great point to wrap up our discussion. And this was a nice point, like, I think, to summarize everything we discussed so far. Vlad, I'm going to let you finish this one because usually I'm doing this job. But for now, like, I will let you put the ending mark under this podcast and provide the final conclusions, what you've learned.
Final conclusion, what do we have? I think for the beginners, we already mentioned that you need to put your notes. What do you need to do? First of all, you need to understand and make your own research inside yourself what you like. If you like to draw, if you like to make an architect, if you like to develop, what you like to try at least to do, right? And after, you need to check out what is the specific criteria that you need to follow to be a professional on it. You can check in YouTube, Google. You can ask any question to the AI, for example, either, right? and you can just go forward. And after, if you want to be a businessman in the field of games, the same, you need to have at least the minimum scope of understanding what are you doing and which team you need to have and what is the marketing situation and where you need to input your money to. And so this is kind of global research of what you plan to do, and you need to have a planning. So the first, who is the manager? The first manager is the planner guy. So you have a plan, and this is your main role, to plan. That's why to be a manager and to be a businessman, you need to have a plan and you need to have a source of information to plan it, right? And what I learned that we are overestimate the AI in the art right now. I think it's really good to know how to use it to be more successful, and we need to start to learn it right now. I think at least designers, it can be a additional tool for them, and someday it can help them a lot to keep the job, for example, right? To be a professional on something new. Yes, and this is my summary. I missed something?
Yeah, I think that covers it pretty well. I mean, at this point, I think, like you said, you need to understand what, investigate what you want to do and make sure it's something you're into and going to be motivated for. And
yeah, and what I learned,
being able to do your own self-guided learning on stuff is also just a huge critical skill going forward for any job you're going to be in.
Mm-hmm. And I think you don't need to be a PhD on it to start, right? So you just need to try with some courses. And another good source of the networking and people is hubs, networking labs, clubs, craft labs, like we have, for example, in Cambridge Hackspace, that you can just come over, show up and say, hey, I have this and I want to try this. And can you help me with the advice? So you need to have a network about it. It's, I think, third advice for those people in any kind of what you want to do. If you want to be a professional or if you want to be a businessman, no problem. You always have people to speak about it.
Yeah.
Does it usually start around noon?
What is the purpose of the person coming to the hackerspace to play the bass guitar? What are they doing in there?
Well, there's tons of musicians in this building.
No, it's just a building. Yeah, it's a girls next door, playing guitars.
I'm coming.
I'm coming. This is motivation, right?